The Theme Chronicle is here, and have I got a deck for you? Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at the Theme Chronicle, and Orcust specifically, because yes, I do believe this is the best deck, once again, in the Theme Chronicle. Of course, the best event, well, one of the best events, I should say, is finally back, and yeah, a lot of this is because Orcust is a top deck, and is genuinely super fun to play. Also, I really enjoy the deck building aspect of the Theme Chronicle. I think the limitations are fairly fun, and I do really enjoy it. So, let's just quickly hop into the card by card and the explanation. So, real quick, basically, any two cards does full combo, kind of. If you can put two bodies onto the field, you can do full combo, because all you need to do is go into Nightmare Mermaid, which then pitches a card from your hand, and then from there, you are able to go into your Orcust monsters with Orcust Nightmare, into Galatea, into etc, etc. You get the point. So, with that in mind, our whole game plan is centered around putting two bodies onto the field that you can utilize in order to then go into the Orcust combo. Coolio. So, here we have, starting off with Jet Synchron. Jet Synchron alongside the Link Karibo is two bodies, and notably, this is a fire machine, which still plays around Impulse, which is pretty nice, and allows you to attach it or shuffle it back with your Orcust monsters, so you can like attach it with the Dingirsu from Banish, right, with the Dingirsu effect to attach, as well as you can shuffle it back with Galatea, which is kind of funny. So, there's that. Just a solid monster. We're not using it for anything other than 2 Link material. On top of that, we're also playing Terror Top, because again, it's another thing that you can use without having to use your normal as well to just put guys onto the field. That's it. We're also playing the Xyz in the extra deck, Bamboozling Gossip Shadow, in order to negate a monster effect, kind of. So that's pretty nice. But on top of that, we're also playing Armored Torpedo to draw a card. I don't know, he's here. I didn't really need anything else, and there wasn't really anything else available in the extra deck, so we decided to do this instead. As for the actual Orcusts, we're playing 2 Symbol Skeleton. It comes up occasionally. We're playing the 3 Harp Horror, because you want to see it a ton. It's extremely good to send off of. The next guy, Girsu, which sends a card from deck to grave. On summon. So that's pretty solid. Harpor can special summon by locking him into darks from deck, and then Symbol Skeleton can reborn from grave. And then we have the Orcust Nightmare, which we're all playing 2 of, which can send another guy to the grave as long as a monster is on the field to modulate the attack of, which is pretty nice. Then we have the One World Wand, which can reborn from banish one of your Orcust monsters, which is pretty solid as well, and generally what you're sending off of Nightmare. We're also playing 3 different targets for the Galatea, the 1 Orchestrated Return, the 1 Crescendo, which is just an Omni-Negate, as long as you control an Orcust Link monster, and 1 Babble, which allows you to use your Orcust monsters as if they were quick effects. Very, very useful. This is one of the coolest cards in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! History, and it's genuinely one of the reasons why I enjoy Orcust. Because, man, it's so cool. As for the rest of the cards, it's a ton of hand traps. We're playing 3 Droll to beat the very many players who are playing things like Sky Striker or 6 Samurai, so this is just very solid. We're also playing 3 Ash, just because it's good, just generally good. So we're playing a bunch of hand traps in general as well. The 2 Nibiru, the 2 Droplet, the 2 Triple Tack, because I don't know, reasons. Nibiru doesn't really feel great, but it does feel kind of necessary because there's a lot of, like, very combo-centric decks that do die to Nib, right? So there's that. Then we also have the 3 Imperm and 3 Impulse. This is one of the main reasons as to why I do believe this is the best deck. Impulse is crazy, just in general, generically, right? So being able to play specifically around the limitations for Impulse is very solid. It's also why we specifically chose Jet Synchron as opposed to something else that puts 2 bodies onto the field, because this happens to be a fire monster, meaning you can still play Impulse and not have to play around something else of that nature, right? So there's that. As for the rest of the extra deck, we are playing the 2 Dingirsu as well as 2 Galatea. Both of these are very good. Dingirsu is a non-target send on summon, and on top of that, it could also attach a Banished Machine on summon as well, which is pretty solid. However, it also is battle and card destruction protection for the entire field. This card's extremely good, and is hilarious to try and watch it's hilarious to try and watch people deal with an opponent with your field with, like, Harpy's Feather Duster or Lightning Storm or something else of that nature. Like, for example, I don't know, Sky Striker. So yeah, it's pretty solid by that nature. We're also playing the 2 Galatea, which can shuffle from Banished in order to set one of your Orcust spell traps. Very solid, and you can use it to make the Dingirsu by using it as material. Pretty solid. We're also playing a whole bunch of just cards to get to our combo. The 1 Link, Karibo, and Anima are here to allow us to go into Mermaid by linking into the Phoenix. You go Phoenix into Mermaid, and then Mermaid, pitch a card. Also, Phoenix is just generically good. We're also playing IP Masquerena. This is generally part of the end board because you make it after linking off a Dingirsu that you attached an additional material to. Then we have the 1 Nightmare, Nightmare Unicorn that you make off of the IP Masquerena, or you can make Topologic Bomber Dragon, which is also very useful. If you don't know what Topologic Bomber Dragon does, let me read this to you. If another monster is special summoned to a zone a Link monster points to, let me read that again. A Link monster, not this Link monster, a Link monster points to, while this card is on the field, destroy all monsters in the main monster zones. Also, your other monsters cannot attack for the rest of this turn. Who cares? After damage calculation, if this card inflicts damage, or attacks an opponent's monster, inflict damage equal to the original attack, cool, doesn't matter. The important thing is that you can summon during the opponent's turn multiple times, which means you can trigger this multiple times as well in order to pop the entire opponent's board multiple times. I guess not the entire opponent's board. They could have a Link monster or something of that nature in the extra monster zone, but alas, you get the point, right? You basically just get to nuke all of their materials, and being able to do that multiple times is very useful. And because of the way that Dingirsu as well works, it can detach to protect itself, meaning you could even keep the Dingirsu on your field while still nuking the opponents. Pretty cool. And then we are also playing the 1 Longirsu, which is also fairly solid. It shuffles back cards from the banish in order to send linked cards, which is okay, but not great. Honestly, sometimes I just use it to shuffle back the 2 cards, because you do cycle through a bunch of cards, so being able to just, like, put cards back into the deck is not terrible. And then the 1 Avramax, because why not? That's it. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performs. Alright, so here we are going first, and this is generally going to showcase what we can accomplish when more or less uninterrupted. We're going to start off here with the Terror Top to grab the Takatomborg. Takatomborg is going to special summon in order to go into the Bamboozling Gossip Shadow, which is pretty solid. We're going to then go into the Link Karibo, and then draw 2 off of our Orchestrated Return, which we were able to send the Orcust Nightmare. Great, now we're going to go for the Foolish Burial in order to send the Harp Horror, and activate the Harp Horror to special summon. Here we're going to send to the graveyard the Symbol Skeleton, and then we get to make our Galatea. Galatea effect is going to shuffle back in order to set a guy, and we're going to set the Babel. Babel is going to activate, then we're going to activate the Orcust Nightmare to send the World Wand to the grave, activate the effect of the World Wand, special summoning back at the Nightmare, and then Exee into the Dingirsu using our Link monster, and now we can attach our banished machine monster, which happens to be World Wand, to our Dingirsu as material, link off of those 2 in order to go into the IP Masquerena and pass the turn. Now, this may not seem like a lot, but Babel is doing a hard amount of carrying here, because generally what we are able to accomplish is that we have the Reborn off of Symbol Skeleton to Reborn Dingirsu, and alongside the IP Masquerena, it provides a little bit more oomph. So that's generally what you're trying to do, right? Just like end on that. And then pair that with the other such stuff like the Orcust Nightmare to be able to send something like a Harp Horror or whatever it may be, as well as whatever other cards you were able to get into hand or just into rotation generally is pretty solid. Things like Droplet or Imperm or what we have here with Droll and Ash. My opponent's going to reveal that they're on the Jirac structure, which is not too surprising, but they're going to pop the Baby Sarosaurus, to which I will Ash Blossom. To be fair, I don't know if this is actually the correct option, but I do elect to Ash it. But they're going to go for the Xeno Meteorus, which I will then promptly go for the Droll here. Now, this is a bit of a goof on my part. Realistically, what I should have done is the Xeno, as soon as it activates, I should have activated the Bamboozling Gossip, and then had us draw cards instead. But alas, I didn't. And now I feel kind of stupid. But alas, I did put them under Droll, which is pretty good. They're going to go for the Petite Pteranodon, whatever this is. the Pterodon. They're going to pop that in order to special summon the Miscellaneousaurus from the deck, and I'm like, okay, that is enough material to where I feel it's necessary for me to actually nuke the field. So let's do that. We're going to go for the... sorry, we're going to go for the effect of the Orcust Nightmare, which is again going to reborn our... Or send to the... Sorry. Orcust Nightmare sent Harpor specialed from deck the Gearsu, and then Gearsu sent another guy. I believe we sent the Symbol Skeleton, and now we go for the IP Masquerena to go into the Topologic, and now we can go for Symbol Skeleton to reborn our Dingirsu, and Dingirsu is going to attach from Banish, as well as we are going to nuke the field. So we're going to attach from Banish in order to attach a Machine Monster, which I believe I attach the Harpor, and then I detach to protect our Dingirsu and nuke the field. At this point, we're just kind of seeing what our opponent can accomplish here. They're going to go for the Oviraptor. Oviraptor effect is going to send because they forgot about Droll. Oopsie. Yeah, you can't get the UCT. So they're going to pop instead here in order to grab up their baby. And then they're going to send to the graveyard the this guy, Astero, which, if you don't know, this card is very useful. Because when in the opponent's grave, during the opponent's turn, you can banish 2 Jurek monsters from your grave to special summon a Jurek Meteor. Now, if you don't know what Jurek Meteor does, let me really quickly read it for you. Jurek Meteor says, if this card is synchro summoned, destroy all cards on the field. All of them. And then you can special summon a tuner from your grave. Fantastic. So, generally, you just nuke the field multiple times. That's what Jurek does. It's actually pretty solid, but alas. During the draw phase, I elect to go for the Harpor. This is just a mistake on my part, to be fair. But it's fine. We just go and send another Harpor off of the Gearsu. Now we're going to go for the World Wand. We're going to banish in order to reborn our Symbol Skeleton. Symbol Skeleton is pretty solid here. And then we're going to link off into our Galatea. Why are we doing this? Because it's funny, and also because I wanted to use the Galatea to cycle back a card, and we're going to reborn the Galatea here in a second. So we're going to go for the Crescendo here. We're going to nuke the field. We're going to allow them to Baby Ceratosaurus here, because that way we have the Triple Tack live, and since that's a mandatory effect, that's why we did this. They're going to go for the Astero here, which is pretty smart, all things considered, because if I were able to make a Gearsu, their big monster would not do anything. So, alas, they're going to go for the Jurek Meteor. I'm going to then reborn my guy, and the field is going to get nuked. Except for the fact that this has Lingering Effect. Whoa, yeah. It currently is influenced by Galatea. So that is something to keep in mind. Alas, I'm just going to draw 2 and walk into this, because I don't really have anything at this point. However, Babel can get itself back as well as a bunch of other things, so it's not really that big of a deal. And the Crescendo is just going to get us a search here. We're just going to add back the Symbol Skeleton here. So there's that. Also, they brought back this guy, which says when it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, your opponent either discards a card to negate this effect, or they destroy the monster destroyed by this, or that destroyed this card. But alas, again, Bomber Dragon is protected by the IP effect. So, my opponent is going to normal summon Jurax Stego and then special summon into the wrong zone and nuke the field. Anyway, that's fine. They get to send another one of their Astero, which then can synchro summon the other Jurek, which is fine. But alas, we're going to go for the Babel here in order to add back to our hand it. And the opponent elects to Astero here for some reason. Okay. Out comes Meteor. Meteor effect is going to activate. Also, this is a mandatory effect. This is not a optional thing. You just nuke the field. So, alas. Anyway, Gallium is also here for some reason. Out comes Orcust Nightmare, which is funny. We're going to go for the Symbol Skeleton. We are going to special summon the Galatea. We're going to activate the effect of the Galatea to shuffle back a card. That's it. That's all it's doing. We're shuffling back a card. And then we are going to go into our Dingirsu, which can then attach from Banish as well, and attach to the Symbol Skeleton. Notably, not summoning into the Topologic Bomber Dragon effect, or area. They're going to pop our Nightmare, which is fine. I'm going to give a little bit more damage here by sending the World Wand back to the grave, and then going in for a fair amount of damage. At this point, the game is pretty much over, and my opponent realizes this. So, alas, we're going to special summon back the Nightmare, and my opponent concedes. Yeah, good game. Alright, so here we are going second, and, well, we drew Droplet, so it should be fine. We also drew Terratop, which is also nice. And again, Orchestrated Return. It's back in the hand. Anyway, my opponent is playing Dark Magician. Actually, Dark Magician, not something else. Like Spiral. I don't know if Spiral's playable. That was the only other deck that I could think of. Anyway, my opponent fails the skill check by activating the effect to special summon the Dark Magician, as opposed to getting the draw to and special summoning souls. Of course, It's fine. They also decided with Rod to search out a bond between teacher and student. For some reason, I'm not entirely certain that this is the play, but alas, it's fine because now it sets the dark burning magic. Okay. They're also going to activate one of the field spells, Magician's Salvation, and I'm going to tell you this right now. This card goes crazy for them. That's all. It does a lot of work for them. Too bad it won't matter, but alas, out comes Artemis. Cool. There are no threats to our game plan here. We're going to start off here with the Speedboy Takatomborg. They're going to then droll. That's a little annoying, but alas. We're going to go for the Nightmare Phoenix here, and look, I can Coat Link it. It doesn't do anything, but I can Coat Link it. We're going to go after the Dark Burning Magic, obviously, right? So we're going to pop the Dark Burning Magic. They're going to pop our Nightmare Phoenix as well, and at this point we did also pitch a Harpour, so now you get to go for the Harpour. Unless they have like Ash in hand, we're pretty solid here. So we're going to send the Orcust Nightmare instead here, and Gearsu has another effect where you can actually just generate a token if it's the only card you have. So you put a token on both people's fields, which is also fantastic, because then they can't like Imperm or Fool Loss or something like that. And now we can go for the Galatea. Galatea is then going to go into the Babel, and then we're going to activate the effect of the Nightmare, which we sent earlier, and send the Symbol Skeleton. Symbol Skeleton is going to then reborn a guy, and we are going to then go into the Ding Gearsu. Now, I know what you're saying. Wait, why didn't we, like, send with the Ding Gearsu? Why are we attaching? What are we doing? What is the game plan here? We sent and reborned with Symbol Skeleton as opposed to keeping it in grave. The simple answer is, I don't really care about what my opponent has. I don't really care about, like, sending the back row or anything else of that nature. For the most part, I don't really care about this. So, it's mostly, I'm going to set up my thing, because if I set up my thing in its entirety, I don't know what my opponent is actually going to be capable of doing. So that's generally what I'm doing here. So we're going to walk into the field, and then we are just going to go into our IP Masquerena, leaving this guy in, or on field. They're going to then go for the Eternal Soul, and I have never used this effect. I think I've used Salvation's effect. To be fair, I don't play Dark Magician that much, but like, generally speaking, I've seen Salvation's effect activated like once ever before. I didn't even know it had this effect. I was like, yeah, it sets Eternal Soul. That's it. And then it goes to the graveyard to draw cards. That's it. That's all I've ever seen. But alas, it reborns Dark Magician Girl. Crazy. So I'm going to grab the Dark Magic attack, which is cute. So I'm going to go for the Symbol Skeleton here. We're going to reborn our Ding Gearsu. And then we're going to send that card to the graveyard. The Eternal Soul is going to nuke their field. And they're going to go for the Magician's Soul, sending Mahad in order to summon out Dark Magician again, which then also reborns another guy, which is cool, because I'm going to go to Topologic Bomber Dragon. You know where this is going. Yeah, we're going to nuke the field again. We have a Harpour engraved, so we're going to go for that, and then go for Gearsu. Also, by the way, this is a mandatory effect. If it so that's why things are changed the way that they are. We're going to send another guy to the graveyard, not really that big of a deal. They go normal summon Rod, I activate the Ash, they activate their Illusion of Chaos, which is in hand, and then they're going to shuffle back a card, and they also added the Timaeus. They're going to put the Artemis to Link Zone and die for some reason. Anyway, we draw triple attack, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to start off here in the main phase going for the Nightmare in order to send the World Wand, and then World Wand effect is going to reborn the Symbol Skeleton, and then we're going to send it to the graveyard to draw 2, and those are 2 fairly decent draws, but it's mostly to get the Symbol Skeleton into grave, and we're going to do the same thing we did previously. We're going to shuffle back that card. However, this time we have a way to actually set a card, so he gets to set the Orcust Crescendo. Out comes the Ding Gearsu, attaching a material, and then going to combat here. Now, I genuinely don't know what my opponent's going to be capable of doing. I didn't set Imperm because I'm stupid. I don't know. I mean, I have Droplets, so it's not really that big of a deal. But alas, they reveal the Illusion of Chaos. They go for the Magician's Souls, and they fail for a third skill check, summoning once again the Dark Magician. Sure, bud. Anyway, they're going to reborn again. Then Dark Magic attack doesn't do anything. What? So, okay, here's what's funny about this. Illusion of Chaos. Hold on, let them reveal their last card. They have Timaeus. So, Illusion of Chaos, if you don't know, shuffles the card back into the deck. Right? It does place it onto the top, but nonetheless, generally you would, like, shuffle a card there. So, what ended up happening is that they just put a card back onto the top of their deck and then just immediately drew it again. Because they had no other plays, which is very funny, very silly. I love it. Sure. So yeah, they ended up still having the Dark Magic attack. They went for that, and then it didn't matter because Ding Gearsu just protects the entire field. Yeah, that is how Ding Gearsu works. Blanket protects. As long as you have a material to detach, he just... No. Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm, Regeki, doesn't matter, he protects. He's great. I think that is one of the most underrated things about this card. So, yeah, let's hop into the last game. Alright, here we are once again going first, and this hand goes goes to showcase why we are playing the Jet Synchron. We're going to normal summon Jet Synchron, link it into the Link Karibo, and then activate the Jet Synchron, special summoning it by pitching the Harp Horror. Now we can go into the Phoenix, and we are going to go Phoenix into the Nightmare Mermaid, and activate the effect of the Nightmare Mermaid, pitching Symbol Skeleton in order to summon it out from deck, Orcust Nightmare. Now we can go into Galatea, and at this point, the game is off to the races. From here, we could normally, like, if we didn't have a Harp Horror or a Symbol Skeleton or something like that, we could go Orcust Nightmare, banish, in order to send one of those to the graveyard by boosting the attack of the Galatea. But alas, we get to go for the Girsu, and Girsu is going to send the guy, and now we can set a card. Of course, it's going to be Babel. Babel effect is going to activate, and now we're going to go for the Symbol Skeleton to reborn a guy, and now we can Xyz-summon into Dingirsu. Dingirsu effect is going to attach to that Symbol Skeleton that we just banished, and then we're going to link off into the IP Masquerena, setting a card and passing the turn. Except for, I lied to you. First and foremost, I want to get this World Wand out of here, and we're going to go for the World Wand to grab back another guy, and now we can go into Galatea 2, Electric Boogaloo. Cool. That's pretty solid. Let's see what we can accomplish, or more specifically, what our opponent can accomplish. They're playing 6am! Now, most of the time, when I played against 6am, what ended up happening is they would summon a guy, or, sorry, they would activate an effect, they would search out a card, and then I would droll them, and then they would go, shit, and then scoop. Or, they would go for the Link 2 monster, and I would activate Imperm, and they would go, shit, and then they would scoop. So, let's just see what they can accomplish here. First and foremost, we are going to, of course, go for Topologic. Topologic's crazy, by the way. Now we're going to go for the Symbol Skeleton. Symbol Skeleton is going to reborn our Dingirsu, and then we're actually going to send their Gateway and nuke the field. They're going to then draw a card, or sorry, search a card, and then now they're going to special summon. They're going to special summon the Keyzon from their hand, and out comes the Battle Shogun. Activate the effect, pitching a card, and out comes the Droplet. Yeah, this is obviously the negate. If you don't know, this card is very useful, right? It has the ability to add a card from deck to hand. Most notably, it can add Gateway. That's generally what you are searching off of this guy, because then from there, you can do a whole bunch of things, right? On top of that, he puts Bushido counters on himself if a 6am is summoned, which is also very solid, because then alongside the Gateway, you get a shit ton of Bushido counters, which you can detach from anywhere in order to search a whole bunch of cards. It's why Droll is so impactful against this deck. But alas, you just negate it, and it can't do anything. So yeah. Anyway, not that big of a deal. We're going to go for the Girsu. We're going to go for the Topologic as well. We're going to nuke the field and send a guy, and then activate to send another guy, and we're just off to the races at this point. Now, generally, I do think it's pretty difficult, especially without Access Code Talker or something of that nature, to actually OTK in this deck. But alas, that's fine, because guess what? We are gonna do it. I'll show you. So we're going to start off here with the Symbol Skeleton, special summon to draw 2, because why not? Now we're going to go for the Harp Horror. Harp Horror is going to activate in order to special summon the Girsu. And then, oh, by the way, if you're wondering how I got this onto the field, last turn, I activated the Galatea, shuffling back a guy to set it, so that's why we did that. I could have set Crescendo, but Crescendo is kind of mid there, so alas, we're going for the Galatea. Now, Galatea is specifically put here, and keep in mind, this card does say summoned to a link, a zone a link monster points to. So if the opponent had like a link monster that pointed this way, that would be something to keep in mind. You could potentially nuke the field with the Topologic. So there's that. Anyway, now we're going to go Galatea again to set the Crescendo, and now we can just send away this guy. Now, the reason I send here is because I actually do have lethal, because we specifically shuffled back the level 8 World Wand. We now have the ability to use Orcust Nightmare to boost one of our monsters by 800. So that's the last of what we are doing, which is 200 over lethal. Good game. Very close game. Not really, I'm lying to you, but very close to lethal. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this deck is just one of my favorites. I really do appreciate this deck. I find it very fun, very enjoyable, and the way that it plays the game is not to invalidate everything that the opponent does, or, like, negate or something else of that nature, and it doesn't take a long time to do its combo. It can do a bit more in terms of combo, but it is a pretty simple setup nonetheless. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a nice, like, shorter combo, while still having a lot of points of interaction, and having the ability to not just immediately die to a board being broken. That, I think, is one of the biggest boons to this deck, is that it has a lot of staying power. It's not going to just fall over to, you know, a Raigeki or a Harpy's Feather Duster or something else of that nature, right? A big board wipe or something that, like, you get it, right? Oftentimes you can also put a ton of follow-up into either grave or hand or something like that, which is also fairly nice. So, all in all, it's a very fun deck to play, and I would highly suggest playing it. It's also not that expensive, all things considered, because you really only need one Dingirsu. You don't need two. You really don't need, like, I guess you need Mermaid, and you need Girsu, but even that is technically not true. As long as you have a Girsu, you could probably get away with pretty much anything else. Because you really do just need two monsters to make Nightmare Mermaid, and then from there you're off to the races. And there's a lot of ways to put two bodies onto field. One of the other things that you could do that a lot of people would be doing generally is playing the Sky Striker cards. If you don't know, Sky Striker has the ability to play... where is it? This one. Hornet Drones. Hornet Drones is a way to put two bodies onto the field for free. That's it. Because specifically Nightmare Phoenix does not require two effect monsters. It just requires two monsters with different names. What you can do is you can actually play Engage, and then you use Engage to go into Hornet Drones. Hornet Drones for Kagari, Kagari for the Hornet Drones effect again in order to then go into Phoenix, and then Phoenix from there, etc., etc. And it can replenish your hand. Now, that is one option. I don't have that option available to me, and also, I don't necessarily think that that is the best option, because it's just okay. And it's not terrible, right? But it does, like, these cards in particular turn themselves off once you've used them, and they're very susceptible to things like Droll and what have you, whereas this version doesn't necessarily care that much about Droll. To be fair, it's not like you would be searching more than the Hornet Drones anyway, but alas, you get the point, right? Mostly, that is very useful. That is another thing that you could do, and again, it would be something that you could play instead of Gearsuit, if you have it. Anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy. If you did, a like is very much appreciated. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.